From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Amarachi Ubani.
Good evening and welcome tonight. It's a rousing welcome for PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar as he visits his home state for the first time after clinching the presidential ticket. Leadership of the Nigerian Bar Association suspends the Association Secretary General Joyce Odua of what it describes as gross misconduct. Nigeria's Consumer Price Index surges to 19.64%, the highest level in 17 years, over the rising cost of food prices.
And on business news tonight, global oil prices dropped more than 3% on concerns of demand as disappointing Chinese economic data renews fear of global recession.
And on sports news tonight, Tottenham manager Antonio Conte and his Chelsea counterpart Thomas Tuchel have been charged with improper conduct by the English FA after a fiery London derby.
And from Abuja, President Muhammadu Buhari to present the 2023 appropriation bill to the National Assembly in September as the Budget Office trains its personnel across the country ahead of the presentation.
Well, you can call it a homecoming for the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar today. He visited his home state of Adamawa for the first time since he emerged as the party's flag bearer for the 2023 general election. The PDP candidate was accompanied by his running mate and the governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa, the national chairman of the PDP, Senator Yocha Ayu, former vice president Namadi Sambo, former governor of Adamawa State, Boni Haruno, and former Niger State Governor Babangida Aliyu, among others. Now, addressing party supporters at an event where some members of the All Progressives Congress defected to the PDP, Mr. Abubakar assured them that he has no other agenda but to serve the people, promising to tackle the various challenges facing the nation if elected president in 2023.
Sights and sound like this will be in huge supply in the days ahead. The convention hurdles, perhaps crossed, the presidential flag bearer of the People's Democratic Party PDP, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, arrives his home state for the first time since the conventions. Accompanied by his running mate, Governor of Delta State, Mr. Ifeanyi Okowa, PDP National Chairman, Senator Yocha Ayu, and other members of the PDP national leadership. From the Yola International Airport, the Turaki Adamawa proceeds to the Lamido of Adamawa's palace to extend his courtesies before heading out to the grounds of Mahmoud Ribadu Square, where thousands of supporters have converged. Take nothing away from this gathering and its semblance for a mega rally. But that's how much that there is. As we are told, the campaigns are yet to commence in earnest. Visibly excited when he mounted the rostrum, the flag bearer begins his address in Hausa dialect, but switched over to English, appreciating the tremendous support he has been getting from the state.
Let me also use this opportunity to thank you all for your support in my political career. It's been more than 3 decades of political career in this state.
Rumors of a supposed rift between him and the sitting governor may have been dispelled following this next action.
Let me also appeal to you. This governor, no matter what you may say about him, has done well. He has done well.
The governor then responds with a scorecard of his time so far as the sitting governor.
We made a lot of promises to our people. We have promised them unity, and security, and we have delivered. We have promised them free education and human development, and we have delivered. We have promised them good agricultural policy, and we have delivered.
In his remark, the national chairman of the PDP, Yoche Ayo, who received the MPs from the APC, assured them of fairness.
On behalf of the People's Democratic Party nationwide, a party that is growing and consolidating on a daily basis, I welcome you into the fold of the PDP family.
While in the state, Alhaji Abubakar is expected to fine-tune things with the state governor, who has just been appointed to lead the Atiku's team regarding reconciliation with Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State, and also meet with the MPs from other parties. Time is counting down. Every day is an inch closer to the general elections that is expected to be quite eventful.
Now, staying with the PDP, former presidential aspirant of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Dele Momodu, is advocating for direct interface between his party's presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, and Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State to resolve their differences. He believes the potential novel dynamics of next year's election requires a different approach by Mr. Atiku if the party intends to win. Mr. Momodu was guest on our breakfast program, Sunrise Daily.
You have the presidential candidate from the north, and then you have the national chairman also from the north. So what the Wike camp is saying is that this is unfair, this is unfortunate, and this should not stand. And that's why they were asking that the national chairman would have to go. So it's not about cordiality. Of course, that cordiality broke down the moment, number one, the party jettisoned the zoning formula of the party and then settled for a northern candidate. It's normal that people will be aggrieved, but it is about crisis management. As I said, if I were in the shoes of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, I will meet with Governor Wike one-on-one, face-to-face. No third party, and let them iron out their differences, because we're dissipating so much energy. There are other presidential aspirants who are complaining that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has never reached out to them, that is waiting for them to approach him. I think I'm using this platform to appeal to our candidate that if we must win next year's election, he must work harder at reaching out to everybody. Everyone counts.
Over to the Accord Party now, where the party's national chairman, Mr. Mohammed Nalado, is asking Nigerians to vote for youthful candidates in the 2023 general elections in order to fast-track the developments of Nigeria as a nation. Speaking in Abuja at the National Executive Committee meeting of the party, Mr. Nalado says youths need to rise up to redirect the affairs of Nigeria by providing quality leadership.
If you look at the history of Nigeria today, all the development that we are seeing today in Nigeria were brought by the youth. All the leaders we had in the past that brought development in this country are from the youth, from the young age. So if Nigeria is given to a youth, I'm sure Nigeria will do better. Because you just go by history, from First Republic to date, the performances of the youthful leaders we had is much, much better than the performance of the older ones we have. So Nigerians have to wake up to go back to that and make sure they vote in a youthful person that can transform Nigeria. We don't need to go and say anything other than go back to the history.
Meanwhile, a federal high court sitting in Damaturu, the Yobe state capital, has adjourned the hearing of a suit between Bashir Mashina versus the All Progressives Congress and two others to 12th September 2022. The presiding judge, Justice Fadima Aminu, says the adjournment is to allow the defense counsel to complete all necessary processes before the rescheduled date. The prosecuting counsel, Ibrahim Bawa, is asking the court to direct the Independent National Electoral Commission to recognize the name of the plaintiff, Bashir Mashina, as the authentic candidate for the Yobe North Senatorial District of the All Progressives Congress, having attended the primaries and won. The Yobe North APC senatorial ticket has been under contention between the Bashir Mashina and Senate President Ahmed Lawan over who will represent the party on the ballot. To the lawyers now, leadership of the Nigerian Bar Association has unanimously suspended from office the General Secretary of the Association, Mrs. Joyce Odua. 9 of the 11 members of the EXCO who signed the resolution authorizing the suspension also resolved to refer Mrs. Odua to the NBA National Executive Council for disciplinary action and to recommend her removal from office for gross misconduct. The document, titled Resolution of the Meeting of the National Executive Committee of the Nigerian Bar Association, held on Monday, August 15, 2022, says that following the receipt of a letter dated August 14 from 9 national officers of the NBA calling on the President, Olumide Akpata, to call an emergency meeting of the NEC, the meeting held at 8 a.m. on Monday with all national officers of the association present. The meeting deliberated extensively on the content of the letter and the weighty allegations against the General Secretary, Mrs. Odua, and in particular, her acts of alleged disobedience to the President, the National Executive Council of the Association, and the National Executive Committee. Owing to the issues to be discussed, the President of the Bar was said to have recused himself from the deliberations and handed over to the first Vice President, John Aikpoko Martins, to chair the meeting. Ahead of the annual general meeting of the association scheduled to hold at the annual general conference on August 25th, the leadership also resolved that the Assistant General Secretary, Uche Wadialo, shall act as the General Secretary pending the pre-conference meeting of the NBA National Executive Council scheduled to hold on Sunday, August 21st. A coalition of civil society organizations in Abuja is partnering with the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, to combat vote buying and voter apathy in the 2023 general elections. The project mobilizes young Nigerians with information and communications technology expertise to build tech solutions that will enable citizens and government to track the voting process in 2023. The objective is to combat vote buying and voter apathy, which the group says is a major problem which should be addressed in the forthcoming general elections.
It's an assembly of young Nigerians with a mindset of finding innovative solutions to some of the challenges confronting Nigeria's electoral system.
This process, together with technology.
The discussion here centers on building tech solutions to counter vote buying and voter apathy, challenges that have been identified as needing urgent attention before the 2023 general elections.
As we speak, our democracy is verging on a state of emergency due to sustained disinterest in active politics and political participation. The average Nigerian youth, especially, is politically numb. Years of electoral violence, vote buying and rigging have stoked deep feelings of betrayal and mistrust in governance and elections. Why Vote Nigeria is taking yet another dimension at nipping voting apathy in the bud by merging technology with social innovation in a first of its kind civic tech hackathon.
The introduction of information and communications technology into Nigeria's electioneering process in 2015 has been adjudged by many to have incrementally improved the quality of elections in Nigeria. Ahead of the 2023 general election, the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, is optimistic that some of the young innovators attending this conference would be able to come up with tech solutions that will improve the quality of the elections.
In order to guarantee efficiency and improve confidence in their electoral systems, many countries are increasingly looking in the direction of digital technology as essential to the conduct conduct of credible elections and enhancement of political transparency. I am optimistic that at the end of today's event, we shall witness the emergence of innovative civic tech solutions to eliminate the irregularities and fraudulent practices that have been the bane of our electoral processes.
The 2023 general elections is barely 6 months away. Many Nigerians are looking forward to it with high expectations, just as the Independent National Electoral Commission hopes to deploy additional technologies.
In part two, after the break, Nigeria's core inflation jumps to a 17-year high at 19.64%. We'll be joined by the Chief Executive of Financial Derivatives Company, Bismarck Rawani, to get more insight. That's in a moment. Do join us again. Secretary General Joyce Odwa over what he calls gross misconduct. Nigeria's consumer price index surges to 19.64%, the highest level in 17 years, over rising cost of food prices. And Kenya's Deputy President William Ruto is declared winner of the country's presidential election, narrowly defeating his main rival, Raila Odinga. Nigeria's annual inflation rate has surged to a 17-year high to 19.64% as rising cost of goods and services continue to take its toll on the country's currency and livelihood of its citizens. The latest figures are contained in the report released today by the National Bureau of Statistics. The report also shows that food inflation rose to 20.02% in July, an uptick compared to 20.60% in June.
And just as economists had predicted, Nigeria's headline inflation rate climbed higher to a 17-year high, 19.4% in July, up from 18.60% recorded in June. This is according to the latest report released by the National Bureau of Statistics. The figure, which also marks the 6th consecutive monthly rise in inflation, is 2.27% higher on a year-on-year basis than 17.38% recorded in September 2005. A breakdown of the NBS data shows that Nigeria's urban inflation rate rose by 2.08% to 20.09% in July 2022 from 18.01% recorded July the previous year, while the rural inflation rate jumped from 16.75% to 19.22% on a year-on-year comparison. Both indexes were unchanged within the comparative month. Interestingly, the food inflation rate in July declined by 0.01% to 2.04% in month-on-month contrast against the 2.05% rate recorded in June 2022. And this is attributed to a reduction in the prices of basic food items such as garri, yams, maize and vegetables. Similarly, food inflation over the previous 12-month period dropped by average 1.42% to 18.75% from the average annual rate of 20.16% recorded in July 2021. The economic interpretation of the rising inflation number means that Nigerians are not able to purchase as much goods and services with their monies, as the value of their income has been eroded due to rising costs.
Well, joining me now is the Managing Director of Financial Derivatives Company, Bismarck Rwanda. I'm just going to join you over here on this huge screen because we have some figures to look at, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Now, you already made this prediction last week about inflation rising. How did you do it?
Well, tricks of the trade. I wouldn't tell you. But again, any, mini, money, mo. But the point is that we had our regression, we had our econometric model, and bingo, 19.6. There we go.
And I'm supposing that a slide is supposed to come up now when we're supposed to see, how well we did in the month of July. This is what we're looking at. Headline inflation is 19.64%, consistent with FDC projection.
Absolutely.
Which is your projection, of course. Food inflation up by 1.42%.
To 22%.
Yeah.
And then core inflation, which is inflation less seasonalities and other things, is at 16.25. But what is most important here is that monthly inflation. This inflation of 19.64, if you go back, that inflation of 19.64 compares the price of a basket in July 2022 with a price of a basket in July 2021. But if you go back to the monthly inflation, which is the monthly inflation which measures last month versus this month, that has actually started declining and actually increasing at a slower pace. So the good news is that inflation is beginning to moderate.
But why is that? Why is the monthly inflation slowing?
Well, first and foremost, consumers are broke, right? I don't know about you, but those are talking, we're all broke, right? We are living on a shoestring, right? Consumer price resistance. People are eating less, so it's fashionable to say we are losing weight. Because
it's also healthy to lose weight.
It's healthy to lose weight, but it's convenient in your pocket. The naira has appreciated from 715 to 680. This is the major culprit. So, and then the price of diesel has come down from 820 to 775. So these are the factors that stoke inflation. All of them are moderating, and that is why you are seeing this monthly inflation declining actually increasing at a slower pace than the annual inflation.
But it hits home, it hits closer home when you have to talk about food, right? Because food prices are also appreciating. I'm wondering what relation that has with these figures.
Well, no. You see, last month or 2 months ago, there was a planting season. Now we are going to the harvest season. So, but global food prices have come down, right?
Right.
Thank God, Ukraine, we were able to ship things out of Ukraine. And therefore, we are beginning to see price of wheat, price of maize, and price of some of the sugar actually begin to decline, right? So what does it tell you? The next slide goes on to tell you that why Nigeria is not alone. Nigeria is not an outlier. You see, Ghana went up to 31.7%. They just announced the inflation. Next to Ghana is Angola, 21.4%. In fact, Angola, the inflation actually declined. Nigeria is the third there, 19.64%. Then Rwanda, which is one of the fastest growing economic miracles of Africa, actually is at 19.6%. So it's all right if you are growing fast and you're having inflation. We call that a natural trade-off. Yeah. Then Zambia is actually at 9.9%. So no big deal.
Yeah, but why do you say Nigeria is an outlier?
Nigeria is not an outlier.
No, sorry, why do you say Nigeria is not an outlier?
Because everybody is affected, almost everybody. Because, first of all, global inflation is feeding back into the African region, and Nigeria is just one of those. But that doesn't take away from the fact that we had some structural problems before now, right? So, but at least some of the measures that have been taken may be beginning to see good. So, let's go state by state. It depends on where you live.
Right. So there are differences, in the inflation rates in states across Nigeria.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Let's start with the poor performers. Akwa Ibom, 22.88, right? This is in the south-south. Ebonyi State in the south is 22.51 from last month to this month. Kogi State, so it's cross. This is in the northwest, north-central. This is in southeast, and this is Akwa Ibom. Let's see those who are doing well and why. Can you go back a bit? Go back one slide, please.
I think they'll be changing.
Now, what we are seeing here is that Jigawa has the lowest inflation rate. That's in the northwest. Kaduna is in the northwest. And then Borno State in the northeast. Why is this happening? Because they're producing a lot of food there, but the food cannot get out of there because of insecurity and all those things that are happening, bandits. And so there's plenty of food there, but it can't go out. And there's little food here and it can't get across. So you've got to deal with security now, right? Apart from other things. And finally, what next? The GDP numbers are going to be released on August 26th. If they are positive, we believe that MPR will be left unchanged because what it means that the economy is beginning to grow again. Harvest season begins in Q3. Global oil prices are down from 125 to 93 today. They're going to go slightly lower. And global inflation is down. The US, which is the world's largest economy, 25% of the global output, inflation came down from 9.1 to 8.5%. China is beginning to see they had slower growth. So basically, what it means that in the month of August, now it's 19.6. In the month of August, inflation will go slightly higher to 19.7. And then in September, it comes down to 19.3. After that, so again, cautiously optimistic. If all of these things begin to happen, maybe we'll have a good Christmas.
Happier days for the fourth quarter of the year, right? Fingers crossed.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Bismarck. A pleasure having you here. Still ahead on the news at 10, global oil prices dropped more than 3% on concerns of demand as disappointing Chinese economic data reduce a fear of global recession. We'll have more in business news. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Abuja. Well, barring any change, that is, President Muhammadu Buhari is expected to present the 2023 appropriation to the National Assembly next month. Yes, that's right, in September. And that's according to the Director General, Budget Office of the Federation, Mr. Ben Akabweze. Mr. Akabweze was speaking at the commencement of a two-day nationwide training in budget preparation organized for over 4,000 budget officers drawn from about 900 ministries, departments and agencies of the government. He was represented at the training exercise which held simultaneously in Lagos and Abuja. Our correspondent Timothy Crown Ademigbe reports.
Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning.
Given the approval of the medium-term expenditure framework anytime from September, the process of the 2023 budget should begin.
It is my pleasure to welcome you all.
And in preparation for that, the Budget Office of the Federation is training representatives of budget offices of ministries, departments, and agencies. At least 4,000 budget officers are billed for training, which begins with Lagos and Abuja centers running simultaneously.
The main goal of this training is to provide continuous learning to equip budget personnel with the requisite knowledge, skills, and the tools they require to prepare and submit the 2023 budget. It has been observed that MDAs do not study the budget circular in detail, as such make mistakes that should ordinarily be avoided if they had complied with the relevant sections of the budget circular.
Part of the outline for these exercises, according to the Budget Office, is the training of personnel on how to correctly read and interpret the budget core circular in details.
The desired outcome of this training is to enable participants to refresh their knowledge, fine-tune skills, and have access to the tools required to prepare and submit the 2023 budget on the given BPAS with minimal errors. The executive budget proposal will be submitted to the National Assembly by September 2022, pursuant to Mr. President's directive, and in a bid to get the 2023 appropriation bill passed and signed into law by 31st December 2022.
Aside from these trainings in Lagos and Abuja, personnel in all geopolitical zones are also covered. Training outline also focuses on public finance management, budgeting, and digital technologies, all with the aim of ensuring that the 2023 budget is prepared and submitted with minimal error, as well as passed and signed into law, latest by December 31st, 2022. Timothy Crown at Diribigbe, Channels Television News.
The Lagos Command of the Federal Road Safety Corps has expressed worries over the increasing cases of fatal night road accidents in the state. The agency is appealing to the motoring public to drive with caution and, if possible, avoid night travel. Our correspondent, Dare Idowu, reports.
Every year, the life of approximately 1.3 million people are cut short as a result of a road traffic crash. Between 20 and 50 million people suffer non-fatal injuries. That's according to the World Health Organization. Now, on the home front, the Lagos Command of the Federal Road Safety Corps says a total of 416 crashes have been recorded in Lagos since January this year, involving 705 people, out of which 97 of them lost their lives. The state sector commander gives the statistics of accidents across the state and efforts by the command to mitigate the rate of such incidents.
By virtue of the record we have available to us, most of the crashes affect commercial vehicles as against the private. And of recent, you are all aware that the series of crashes we have been recording nationwide occur at night, and it's fast happening in Lagos now. And the area where Lagos is more affected are the areas where the government is trying its efforts to give us a better road facilities. Before now, we hardly record crashes along Lagos-Ekpe Road because the road was bad. But now, with the construction that is going on, the part of that road that is better off now is recording crashes virtually every day.
Motorists are advised to avoid night travels because of impaired visibility at that hour, and to also observe construction signage and speed limits at such zones.
The ability to avoid night driving is what we are pleading for. Night driving has a lot of evils attached to it. Even during the day, we see crashes, we see issues in assisting people during rescue, before you now talk of night, especially when it happens at a very hard location where you don't have available help at hand. The crash that occurred at Ekpe, you heard what our men passed through in that regard. Parking carcass, burnt bodies. These are breadwinners. These are people that were traveling all the way from the north to this place.
The agency says it has intensified public enlightenment campaign nationwide to educate motorists and will continue to do so to guide motorists against crashes. Dare Idowu, Channels Television News.
A suspected bandit dressed in what looks like a woman's attire was today rescued from a mob attack at the Jora Badia area of Lagos by the police. An eyewitness said that the arrival of the police at the scene saved the man from lynching. According to the spokesperson of the Lagos State Command, Benjamin Hundeyin, its men arrived on time to save the suspects from lynching. Mr. Hundeyin said that preliminary investigation shows that the male suspect, who many alleged disguised as a woman, is Sani Garfa, aged 29, who was found with a bag containing 3 hammers, 6 screwdrivers, a pair of pliers, 1 chisel, 5 spanners, 3 rolls of black cellophane, cable wires, a 2 mm bending spring, a pair of black trousers, and a plastic box of clips. A police spokesman adds that the investigation is ongoing to ascertain his claim of being an electrician. As the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Abiodun, commends residents for their vigilance. He, however, warns against any form of jungle justice, as suspicious persons or movements are to be reported to security agencies. Well, that's it from the nation's capital. It's back to you, Amarachi.
Thanks a lot, Gloria. We'll take it from here now and over now to Teniola Shobowale for business news.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Amarachi. Welcome to Business News. Global oil prices fell by more than $4 a barrel today as disappointing economic data from China, the world's largest importer and second largest consumer of the commodity, raised renewed concerns of global recession. The international price benchmark for the commodity, that's the Brent crude, ended the day lower by 3.1% at $95.10 per barrel, while its contemporary, the US WTI crude, went down 2.9% to settle at $89.41 per barrel. The sharp drop in oil prices was further worsened by reports of a potential breakthrough in nuclear power negotiations with Iran, easing the pressure on crude oil markets. Meanwhile, Nigeria's Bonny Light last traded lower by 3.27% at $118.06 per barrel, while the Kwaibo and Brass River crude stream were up 3.46% at $106.34 per barrel as at Saturday. Meanwhile, Nigeria's external reserves fell by $337 million in the first 2 weeks of this month, maintaining its declining trend since the middle of July. According to latest data from the Nigeria Central Bank, the external reserves fell by $38.88 billion on Thursday last week, down from $39.21 billion recorded at the end of July. Well, this indicates that the external reserves has lost $563 million since July the 18th, when it commenced the latest downward trend. Analysts attribute the declining level of the reserves to increased sale of the dollar by the CBN in its bid to stabilize the exchange rate. Well, let's check in on the stock market now. Ini John Mekwa has the details.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. That's right. The NGX opens on that sustained bearish sentiment today, shedding 19 billion naira from the total market cap, while the all-share index dipped 0.07%. And then you see we're still holding on to this 49. Now we've lost that 50,000 level that we are so proud of, as well as the market cap. We no longer have that 27 trillion naira. I do hope this comes back soon. Now, looking at the activity chart, we have a lot of red, but the deepest fall recorded today was on volume. There, volume 211 million, and that's like 72% less than the figure that we had on Friday. Value 2.19 billion, and deals the only one in green compared to Friday, 4,124. There are, however, some happy stocks, as the only fintech listed on the NGX, E-Trans, are top trades today. And even though its price remained unchanged, its volume traded over 52, about 53 million. I wonder what caught the attention of investors today. You know, you don't always see E-Trans on the top trades. Now, let's look at the counters for today. We see our favorite banking is scaled through today only because of Zenith Bank, which gained 45 kobo, and so the banking is 0.15% up. Others are down. They couldn't scale through, except industrial goods. Industrial goods did scale through also, 0.17%, slightly, but at least it made it through. Well, what a way to start the week. We do hope it doesn't stay this way for the rest of the week, but we'll keep you posted. That's the Stock Market Report. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Back to you.
Well, thanks a lot, Ini. Now let's find out how major markets outside our shores ended Monday's trading session. And that's Business News Tonight. I'm Teniola Shoboale. It's back to Amarachi for the rest of the news at 10.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial star 894 hash now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Tenny. And just before we go to the foreign scene, the Academic Staff Union of Universities is scheduled to meet with federal government representatives tomorrow, Tuesday, over its prolonged industrial action. Speaking on our program, Politics Today, President of ASU, Professor Emmanuel Oshodeke, said the meeting is to discuss one of 7 issues the union is protesting over.
We've not had any serious communication, although they have invited us for a meeting on one issue tomorrow, with the issue of renegotiation. You know, there are 7 issues while we're on strike. They are inviting us for discussion on issue of renegotiation tomorrow. We don't know what they're coming with.
Renegotiation of what?
Renegotiation of the 2009 agreement.
Okay.
Which is one of the issues that started, this process started in 2017.
Of the payment of your wages.
It's not wages. You see, they are reduced to wages. It's not wages. It has to do with the system.
Accumulation and...
It has to do with funding, the structure, the autonomy, and other issues, and how to raise funds to fund the university. That's what you have in the agreement. But the government has seemed to be reduced to just salary alone. Because if they had looked at the whole content of that agreement and implement it, they would not be talking about funding. That was how the issue of TED fund arose in 1992. But they don't bother. This said don't bother. They want to blackmail us with funding, with salary. If you look at the agreement, it encompasses funding. It involves the issue of autonomy, because every university in the world is autonomous body. You don't go and suggest university to the public service, the bureaucrats. That's what we're having the problem today.
On our shows now, supporters of Kenya's Deputy President William Ruto have been celebrating since he was declared winner of last Tuesday's presidential election. Mr. Ruto narrowly beat his main rival, Raila Odinga, taking 50.5% of the vote. It is Mr. Ruto's first time running for president, having served 10 years as deputy president with President Uhuru Kenyatta, who decided to back Odinga in this election. Mr. Ruto says he wants to be a president for all and for the country to focus on the future. Simon Pusey has more international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Iran has categorically denied any link with Salman Rushdie's attacker, instead blaming the writer himself. Mr. Rushdie was left severely injured after being stabbed on stage at an event in New York State. He is now able to breathe unaided.
And the other thing that's happening is that
he has faced years of death threats for his 1988 novel, The Satanic Verses. Iranian media have extensively commented on the attack, calling it divine retribution. Earlier, the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken accused Iran's state media of gloating about the attack, calling its behavior despicable. Relatives have attended a mass funeral in Egypt for some of the 41 victims killed in an electrical fire and stampede at the Abu Safin church. Coffins were passed through the Virgin Mary and Archangel Michael Church, where families had gathered to grieve and pray for the deceased. The blaze started just before 9 a.m. in Gerza and blocked an entrance to the church, causing the almost 1,000 attendees to stampede. It's been reported that some 18 children aged between 3 to 16 years old were among the dead. 5,000 worshippers had gathered for Mass at the church in Gerza. Family members of miners trapped in a mine located in northwestern Mexico say that if their family members did not come out alive, their deaths would be a crime that could not go unpunished. They're also demanding authorities inform them on what they will do regarding the rising water levels inside the mine. The 10 miners became trapped inside the Pinabet mine in the town of Sabinas when their excavation work caused a tunnel wall to collapse, triggering flooding in 3 wells. Japan's Prime Minister has pledged to never again wage war on the anniversary of Japan's World War II surrender. The National Memorial Service was also attended by Japanese Emperor Naruhito. 787 people attended the ceremony this year, including 592 family members of victims of the war. The anniversary commemoration was linked to Yasukuni Shrine, a controversial site that honours 14 Japanese wartime leaders convicted as war criminals by an Allied tribunal.
But what we had from Scott Morrison...
Australia's Prime Minister says he has sought legal advice from the country's Solicitor General following reports that his predecessor Scott Morrison was secretly appointed to key ministerial roles during the COVID-19 pandemic. The Australian newspaper said Morrison was co-appointed Health Minister in 2020 to avoid concentrating power in one person during the coronavirus pandemic. He was later also appointed Finance Minister and in 2021 was made Administrator of the Resources Ministry.
This isn't some, local footy club. This is the government of Australia, where the people of Australia were kept in the dark as to what the ministerial arrangements were. It's completely unacceptable. There's an absolute need for clear transparency to come through here. It is unbecoming, it was cynical, and it was just weird that this has occurred. And Australians will be scratching their head today knowing that the government that they thought was there wasn't actually the Australian government at all.
And finally, a red panda that boldly escaped from its enclosure and evaded recapture for 2 days has been caught and safely returned to an Australian zoo. Ravi, the red panda, made his breakout from the Adelaide Zoo on Friday, but was found in a tree in the nearby Botanic Park. Zoo workers were unsuccessful in luring the 7-year-old out of the tree with bamboo and were forced to use a tranquilizer dart. Once the drug took effect on the animal, zoo workers and helpers safely caught the falling Ravi in a sheet. Adelaide's zoo director said Ravi would spend the next few days recovering from his escape and getting a health checkup.
From tomorrow morning, we will start a review of the space in which he was contained and just trying to identify how he got out of that space. So we'll work through that, review any camera footage that we may have.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon, and welcome to Sports News. The Tigers coach Mike Brown has invited 15 players for the 4th qualification window of the 2023 FIBA Basketball World Cup. The list is headlined by NBA stars Chimezie Metu of the Sacramento Kings and Josh Okogie of the Phoenix Suns. Others are Michael Benije, Michael Ogunne, Michael Okiki, Keith Omera, Christian Mekowulu, Ben Emelogu, Amanze Egekeze, Mie Oni, Ike Nwamu, Ibe Aguchi, Uchenna Irebu, John Matthias Idu, and Abdul Malik Abu. Nigeria will face Cote d'Ivoire on August the 26th before facing Guinea on August the 27th, and then Angola a day later to wrap up the 4th window of qualifiers. In the English Premier League, Chelsea manager Thomas Tuchel and his Tottenham Hotspur counterpart Antonio Conte have been charged by the Football Association following their confrontation after Sunday's heated Premier League draw at Stamford Bridge. The two managers shook hands after a 2-2 draw where tempers flared, but then faced off on the pitch before being separated by players and staff from both teams. Both managers were also shown red cards by referee Anthony Taylor because of the fracas. Now they have until Thursday to respond to these charges. And today, Luis Diaz salvaged a 1-1 draw for Liverpool against Crystal Palace at Anfield, despite Darwin Núñez having been sensationally sent off for a headbutt on his full debut. Now, Wilfred Zaha's first-half goal had given Palace the lead against the run of play, and when Núñez reacted foolishly to a push from Joachim Andersen. Now, with his team needing something special, Diaz provided it with a fine solo goal that completely altered the mood at Anfield. And that's a wrap on Sports News. I'm Victor Matthias. Back to Amarachi with the wrap of the news at 10.
Thanks a lot, Victor. And the main news again. PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar today received a rousing welcome as he visited his home state, Adamawa, for the first time since becoming the party's flag bearer. The PDP candidate was accompanied by his running mate, Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of Delta State, and top members of his party, including the chairman, Iyorchia Ayu. Also today, the leadership of the Nigerian Bar Association suspended the association's Secretary General, Joyce Odua, over what it describes as gross misconduct. The NBA leadership also resolved to refer Mrs. Odua to its NEC for disciplinary action and recommend her removal from office. Nigeria's Consumer Price Index surged to 19.64%, the highest level in 17 years, over rising cost of food prices. And Kenya's Deputy President, William Ruto, has been declared winner of the country's presidential election, narrowly defeating his main rival, Raila Odinga. That is the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Good night and stay safe.